Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we've been running into some issues with our mining equipment, and we need to do a little bit of troubleshooting for that, and step one is to get an actual survey of the moon done. So we need to get a satellite up in a polar orbit, and that will need to contain a resource scanner, or a survey scanner, and we're also probably going to toss a relay antenna onto it. That should be fine too. So for now, let's start with like a Prototype Octo or a Prototype Hex, maybe. This has a built-in gyroscope. We could do it that way, or we could just go with an Octo 2 and just slap on our own gyroscope. That seems absolutely fine. We can do something like that. And then what we want to do most likely is put on a nice big relay antenna with the highest amount of antenna rating that we can. So that's 15G, that's 2G. So this is wildly overkill for the moon. But that's fine. We're going to use this as part of our network for connecting to Duna later on. So that seems absolutely okay. Now let's put some propulsion on this. And I'm going to overkill this a little bit. We're going to put on something like... Actually, I think we should maybe have a battery on here. Like a 1K battery. Something like that. That should be fine. And then we can put on a couple of solar panels, something along the lines of this. That should give us plenty of power. I don't expect that we would need any more power than that. So that seems okay. Then we can put on some fuel tanks. I'm thinking like a T400 is probably wildly overkill. And then like a Pug. Now these don't have an alternator on them, which is why I wanted to include the rechargeable battery bank. And of course the photovoltaic panels would be basically necessary no matter what. So now we need our primary payload on this, which is our survey scanner. So we'll do something like this. Now, that guy sticks out a lot. We actually might want to launch this in its deployed configuration. I don't know. I am thinking about... What do we have unlocked for robotic parts? We do have a hinge here. So we can stow this away a little bit better by attaching it like this. Hang on. One of these days I'll find the right orientation. Here we go. Attaching it like this to the hinge. It really doesn't want to go onto that hinge. There we go. That's attached to the hinge. And then we can set our target angle for the hinge to be down like this. Now that's clipping in a little bit, so we should probably have this be pushed out. It doesn't have to go like a full modular girder segment out. I'm thinking a cubic octagonal strut is probably all we would need here. And then we would need to re-rotate our hinge and then get that put in like that. Now that's not at exactly the angle I want it to be. There. That is stowed in a much more reasonable fashion. Now, this thing is still going to be a little offset, and my question is, does this Pug have gimbaling? I'm not actually certain it does. If it doesn't, we should probably go up to the Terrier, because this is going to be pretty offset on the weight. You can see here that our weight offset, this is a little off-center here. Once we have this thing deployed, we would have our target angle be at 0, like that, and this thing would be deployed. Actually, do I want it deployed this way, or this is probably fine. I was thinking about rotating it. It doesn't really matter. So that's absolutely okay. And having this be the compact version is probably the best variant of that for us for right now. Okay, so that seems fine. We'll just have it be stowed like this. But yeah, if this engine doesn't have gimbaling on it, then that is going to be an issue. So the Pug here does not have gimbaling. So we should ditch that and go to the Terrier then, because the Terrier has gimbaling and can compensate for this weight being offset here. So that seems relatively fine. What else might we need for this? Honestly, that's about all we need for the payload. So we'll call this the survey satellite. There we go. That seems fine. Now we're going to, of course, need to put in a TD12 decoupler. Perfect. And we'll need to lift this thing off. So I'm thinking right now that we probably want to forego a second stage on this. And I want to just adapt this right on up to a larger stage. So, not you. Yeah. Something kind of like this. Adapting that up to like a 2.5 meter. And then we can... Do we even need a 2.5 meter for this? No. Surely we don't need a 2.5 meter for this. That's gotta be overkill, right? So in that case, we can take this down to be something kind of like this. And then we would run a swivel engine down here. So then the question becomes, what's our thrust to weight? I don't think this is going to make it into orbit. In fact, I can tell right now from this delta V, that is not making it into orbit. And it's pretty low thrust to weight as well. So we may want to consider SRBs or liquid-fueled side tanks. And I'm currently thinking liquid-fueled side tanks. So that would be something like this. And that's a little low. And we could have them be attached to something like that. It's a little wacky, no doubt about it, but then we would just toss on these guys. And then the question would be, what is this thrust to weight? That's 1.44. So that's not terribly high thrust to weight. And we can also think about tossing in a fairing. And I'm actually thinking about putting the fairing here. So that means we're going to need a fair amount of additional fuel, right? And to that end, that's understood. We could go to 4 of these. I'll take a look at the cost here in a moment. So for now, this fairing is going to be fairly tall. This is not a legal location here. Why is this not considered a legal location? That's odd. It really doesn't want to put in a fairing up this way. I'm wondering if this is because of this right here. That's possible. So let's build this fairing and have it go out wider to start with. It's okay with this. Okay, that it liked. That's a little wild. This is a very strangely shaped fairing, and this is mostly because it won't let us do this otherwise. Okay, let's get this out of here. I'm going to move where this fairing is. I'm going to put the fairing up here instead. I really don't want to put the fairing here, though. I really want the fairing to go here. It lets us do this. Yeah, it really... Hang on. I saw a spot there where it was okay with it. I'm just mashing the button. Yeah, it really doesn't want to do this. There. Got it. Okay. It's fine with this. Kind of a wacky fairing, but it'll do. Okay, so that's going to reduce our thrust to weight somewhat, because that's going to add additional weight there. So that's now 1.42. Let's try this in 4 times. We could also just go to solid fuel, which would probably be cheaper. So that would be 1.48. But that is not significantly increasing this thrust amount, and that's because there's a lot of fuel in these. But as we burn that fuel, it will increase a lot. I think this is probably fine, and let's go ahead and just run some fuel lines from here to here. Let's put in some struts up this way, as well as down here, just to increase our rigidity a little bit. This is overbuilt, there's no doubt about it, but this is intended ultimately to go to Duna. And that's not going to happen with this current design. It will require further, well, it'll probably require a second stage. Because currently we've got our first stage with the boosters, and then we've got our vehicles, right? Or rather, then we've got our vehicle. There is no second stage on this rocket. So a second stage would probably be required if we were going to go to Duna, and that would probably necessitate taking this up to 2.5 meter, but we'll see for now. This should be fine for the moment. So let's lift this on off. Oh yeah, that's decent. Yeah, I'm putting us in kill rot right now. I forgot to do that at the beginning, but we're in a decent heading, so this is fine. And we can keep an eye on our fuel out over here. Yeah, you can see the center core is not draining and the outer cores are, which is exactly what we want. As expected, our thrust to weight is increasing rapidly. So that's looking great, and we don't have a KER on this. We don't need one. We can just keep an eye on our apoapsis in here. So that's currently about 8 kilometers, and I'm watching our prograde marker here. We're going to want to head over to that prograde marker eventually. Yeah, let's go ahead and start making our way over there now. I don't want to just hammer over there because I don't want to flip this thing, which I think it probably would do. Okay, just lock to prograde now. So that looks reasonably fine. I'm watching our time to apoapsis. It's going up nicely. Okay. We're going to run out of fuel in these side tanks eventually. But for the moment, everything is looking very, very good. So we've got about 15 seconds of burn time left in them. This is a very high thrust to weight at this point, and that's what we knew would end up happening. 2, 1, 0. I didn't intend for the fairing to be in that same stage, but I think it's okay. So at this point, we want to be at horizontal velocity up. Let's just angle our way on over there. We can see our apoapsis is already pretty high, and we just want to build ourselves up some additional... Ooh, that is very responsive on the rotational velocity. Interesting. We just want to build ourselves up some additional horizontal velocity at this point. This is absolutely okay. We'll just go until we're, I don't know, maybe 200 kilometers. That's fine. We have to take this thing out to the moon eventually anyway. So this thing is definitely a little overbuilt, and we knew that would be the case. And we'll cut the engines here. We'll go ahead and extend our solar panels. We've still got a lot of DV in this, actually. We might not even touch this DV. We'll see. But for the time being, I want to go ahead and we don't need to deploy this just yet. Let's hold this where it's at. So that's fine. You can see we're still quite suborbital at this point. We had a lot of vertical velocity, and we didn't build up all that much horizontal velocity. So this isn't terribly surprising, but we'll just put this somewhere around here. Excellent. This thing turns very rapidly. That's great. Yeah, this is very responsive. So that seems absolutely excellent. We're going to have 460.8 meters per second to get into orbit, but this first stage is plenty powerful. It's a little bit slow off the pad. I usually like to target 1.6, but it builds up that thrust to weight very quickly. So that looks great. We've got about 50 seconds on this burn. 40, 30, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, 0 mark. Okay, let's push ourselves up into orbit. So we've still got a lot of burn time on this. No doubt about it. This actually could make it to Duna, by the way. So that's, you know, excellent. Let's just get this last little bit. It doesn't really matter, though. We're in a good enough orbit. So we'll call that good, and let's just take ourselves on out to the moon. So sometime around the periapsis here, we'll just, this is a little too early, I think. Sometime around here, we'll head on up. Yeah, that's looking fine. We're just dialing in the periapsis here a little bit. So that's 51 kilometers. We can dial that in. Cool. So we know what this needs to be at, hang on, what does this need to be at? Let's go ahead and deploy this guy. So we're going to set our target angle. No, not the traverse rate. Hang on, traverse rate can be fairly slow. 10 is fine. So target angle is going to go to 0. There we go. So we're just deploying our survey scanner. And now we're going to deploy the scanner itself. There we go. And if we perform this orbital survey, 60 to 1,500 kilometers. Okay, so that's the information we needed. I want this thing as high up as possible. So 1,500 kilometers, huh? So that should be like 1.5 mil. Like this. And it would need to be in a polar orbit. So we're going to be in an equatorial here, and we could definitely change that, but yeah, we'll do that when we get to the moon. I think it's fine. We've got so much delta V. So let's go ahead and do this timing. This is going to be quite high up. We're going to need to be a little lower than that, but we're going to have to make a lot of orbital alterations anyway. We're going to be coming in equatorially. We're going to need to be polar. So that's okay. We want to be high up for that, so that should be absolutely fine. We've got so much DV here. I'm not concerned about delta V for that. So we're just going to bring this in. If I was concerned about delta V, we'd launch this in a polar orbit to start with and then head over, but yeah, I'm not concerned. So we've got about 10 minutes until this burn. Let's go ahead and warp forward. And how are we doing on our electric charge? We're absolutely fine. I'm deeply unconcerned about that. So we've got about 50 seconds here. 30, 20, 10, and 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay, so this is going to burn off roughly half of the fuel we have left in this first stage. So that's absolutely fine. We're going to be able to still do quite a lot of work with this first stage once we get there. This is very overbuilt for going to the moon. And that's good. Because, like I said, we're ultimately wanting to take this over to Duna. Okay, 6.6 meters per second. We'll just get this last little bit here. 0.3 meters per second. Reorienting a little bit as we chase that node. This is good enough. So where's that putting us? 1.572. Sure. So that's slightly over 1,500 meters. That's, or 1,500 meters. Slightly over 15, this is a lot over 1,500 meters. This is slightly over 1,500 kilometers, and that's absolutely fine. So we're going to want to do a braking burn once we get here, and we'll just do a minimal braking burn. So that's going to end up being something like this. That's a minimal braking burn right there. So we'll head on over to the node. There we go. We'll get that aligned, and that's going to be in 4 hours and 31 minutes. Sure. So let's just get aligned here. We've still got 624 meters per second, so we can do our braking burn on this, and we can even do at least part of our inclination change. So let's head on over to the moon. We have to be in a polar orbit. So we're absolutely going to need to do a pretty hefty inclination change once we get here. This would have been more efficient to do our inclination change back at Kerbal, but this is a little easier, and we've got plenty of DV, so this will be fine. 18 science points. Okay, sure. And we've got about 1 minute now until we're ready to do this burn. 20 seconds. 10 and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay. So we should be very close to being in orbit now. We're not quite there, I don't think. Are we? We're in orbit. Okay, beautiful. That's good enough. So at this point, we know we need to be in a polar orbit, right? Let's check our constraints one more time here. So we need to be in a stable polar orbit between 25 kilometers and 1,000 kilometers. So it's slightly different for the moon. That's okay. So we can just make a... we can make an inclination change wherever we want. I'm going to do it about here because of the positioning of this ComSat. So we're going to add a maneuver here, and we're just going to change our inclination, make this be nice and polar. So as we can see, that is a fair amount, and we don't quite need this much. That's a fair amount of DV here, but we can bring this around. This is not quite as polar as I want it to be, so yeah, more like this. As far as the actual periapsis here goes, we're going to want this to be below 1,000, but not by much. I want it to be just about a 950 is fine. Okay, the apoapsis will probably have to be reduced down as well. This is a lot cheaper than it looked like it was going to be when I first started setting this up. So that's not bad, and this is roughly 90 degrees to this ComSat. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to be good enough. So that looks good. We'll get this orbital insertion burn done here in a moment. So that's going to be 246.3 meters per second. We'll still have a little fuel left over here, and we'll need to use some of that because I think we have to have both our apoapsis and periapsis below that 1,000 kilometer marker. We'll find out. So for now, we are in position here. Let's go ahead and warp. Wait, these guys have all of their... Wait. Hang on. We gotta switch over to here. I think I left them sitting out. Did they die? They may have died. If so, we can bring in more Kerbals. But it just said running out. So let's hop over here and see what we've got. I think I left them standing outside, and I should not have done that. Well, this is currently flopping around, but that also shouldn't be the case, I don't think. I may have reloaded the wrong save, but it's okay. So, Dunvan, you're going to head on up over here. Dunvan, there we go. So yeah, we are running out of oxygen here. We need to get these guys back in here as soon as we can. Dunvan, go up. There you go. Grab and board. Okay, so Dunvan is good to go. Now, okay, so I don't know what that was. Was that the mining equipment? Maybe. I think we did remove one over here in this save. So that may have been mining equipment that just blew up there. For the time being, we need to head over here. And we need to get Billy Bobcat into the location. Don't hit your head, Billy Bobcat. Seriously, though. Go on. Get up here. Okay, grab on. And board. We've got very little oxygen left for these guys. There's one more over here. Tenant. I'm just going to have Tenant hop in here. Again, very little oxygen remains for these. We should be fine here, though. So at this point, I believe that what exploded over here was the bug that we've been experiencing with the mining drills, where they just randomly overheat. So that's fine. The mining drills are definitely heavily bugged at this moment, and yeah, we definitely removed one. So I'm 99% sure that that's what that was. Although it seems to have also taken the thermal control system with it. That's okay. As long as we've got one, this is still theoretically viable. So let's hop on back to the Space Center for now that we got those guys squared away. Yeah, at this point, the main issue, I think, boils down to the fact that those vanilla mining drills are just not working correctly. They're very bugged, and I'm not sure what's causing that yet. We'll need to figure that out. But for now, oh, this bug. Okay, back into the tracking station. We've definitely got a few bugs built up, but that's fine for now. We can still manage that primarily. So we need to get this survey satellite into position. But getting our Kerbals indoors where they can breathe was a bit of a priority. Okay, so we've got about an hour here now. And let's just position ourselves here. Looks good. And this burn is going to commence shortly. So 40 seconds, 30, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Get to the node, please. Smart ASS forgot to be at the node. That's awkward. Okay, now we're pretty much at the node. This is going to be a little different than what I was planning for, but I guess it's fine. We're going to be a little higher, so let's head over to orbital retrograde and do a little bit of a corrective burn here. Okay, there we go. We're going to bring this down to be about 950 again, so that's fine. Now, at the periapsis, we are going to add a maneuver to drop this down to be about the same, about 950. Okay, so somewhere around here should be fine. This is good enough. We'll hop over to the node, and we'll warp on over to this as soon as we can. There we go. So around we warp. And we'll get there shortly-ish. Shortly-ish. So we're currently too high here to run the survey scanner. Lunar Lander's electricity is depleted, which should not be a problem. This is probably just because it's nighttime. That's not an issue. Yeah, and electricity is running out on the Scampatron. That's okay too. So for the moment, we've got 50 seconds here. 40, 30, 20, 10, and 6, 5, 4... 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Ooh, this is very, very powerful. This is probably good enough. Yeah. So let's go ahead and kill Rot. And let's perform an orbital survey. How are we doing on power? There we go. So there's our orbital survey now. So now we can see what we've got. Oh, really? So we're in a high density area. There's definitely something bugged with our drills then. We need to figure that out. So I'm going to try to figure that out off camera in between episodes here. Hopefully I'll have time to do that. I've been kind of strained for time the last few episodes, but hopefully I'll be able to figure something out. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.